This is the Porsche Macan, and this is the Porsche Macan EV. And Porsche's decided to continue selling these two together through 2025. Now, what's the difference between these two? And which is the best for you? And is the electric worth the premium over the gas-powered version? Let's find out. Jumping right into identifying the differences, starting out with the exterior. It's pretty crazy to think that the gas-powered Porsche Macan is still in its first generation, and after going through a couple refreshes, it still looks great. Even in its base trim, it's the sportiest looking car in the segment. And of course, the Macan Electric is all new with EV-ish styling, but it too looks great. It's when you put them side by side is when it becomes easy to see the differences. Conceptually, the electric is following the new design language from Porsche. The headlights are slimmer, the front end is more aggressive and angular. The side profile practically looks identical, and the back ends also look similar too, with each having their respective light bars, with the major difference being that the gas Macan has exhaust tips. Now let's jump onto the interior, where a lot of those differences will really start jumping out at you. But first and foremost, in terms of size, they feel very similar. So if you're comfortable in the gas-powered version, you'll probably be good in the electric, and of course vice versa. But now let's start talking about some of those bigger changes going from left to right. The Macan Electric has a push-button start on the left, while the gas Macan has the traditional twist-style ignition. Next, the gauges in the electric are all digital. It's a really cool looking widescreen curved LED that's adopted from the Taycan, and it's basically making its way into all new Porsches. The gas version stays traditional here and has two analog gauges with one small flanking screen providing some information. Next, the transmission selector is up on the dash and is tiny for the electric. In the gas, it's a traditional looking shifter in the center console. Speaking of the center console, slightly different look here, but almost the same concept with the physical switches and some haptic feedback buttons. But I do think the electric looks a little cleaner and simpler. The infotainment system in the electric is running the latest version of PCM, with graphics that look more EV-ish, while the gas Macan looks more contemporary and maybe less cartoonish is the right word. And since we're talking about screens, here's one thing that the electric has that you can't get in the gas version: a passenger screen, which allows your co-pilot the ability to basically do their own thing. Now the cargo areas, so the electric has 19.1 cubic feet of space compared to the gas Macan 17.2. Interestingly, when the seats are folded down, the gas Macan has more space, coming in at 53.1 cubic feet versus the 47.3 in the electric. But one hidden bonus for the electric is that it has a frunk, which allows another 3 cubic feet of space. Now, as I lean here against the Macan Electric, let's talk about a sensitive topic, and that's pricing. But before doing that, I did want to mention that I went with a base gas-powered Macan and a base Macan Electric as opposed to a Macan 4. Because some might say, oh, the base gas-powered Macan is all-wheel drive and this one is rear-wheel drive. But for the sake of simplicity and to highlight pricing even further, I just decided to go base for base. Now let's jump back onto the pricing. So the base gas-powered Macan has a starting MSRP of $64,895, while the Macan Electric starts at $77,295 for a difference of $12,400. Now there are some things that come standard in the Macan Electric, such as PASM and air shocks, but there is absolutely a premium for going electric. But now let's jump into the mechanical differences between these two. The gas-powered Macan is equipped with a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder that makes 261 horsepower and 295 pounds-feet of torque, and is connected to a 7-speed PDK transmission, putting the power down via an all-wheel drive system. On the flip side, the Macan Electric has a single electric motor in the rear that generates 335 horsepower and 355 horsepower with the overboost function, plus 415 pounds-feet of torque. It puts the power down via the rear wheels only through a single-speed transmission. The electric is a little quicker accelerating. 0 to 60 occurs in 5.4 seconds with the electric and 6 seconds for the gas version. Efficiency-wise, it's hard to compare the two, but one area that is common is range, and according to the EPA, the gas-powered Macan is good for 416 miles, while the Macan Electric can go 315 miles with a full charge. As mentioned earlier, the gas-powered Macan does not come with PASM or air suspension, but can be optioned in for about $2,500 to $3,000. So now let's get behind the wheel and see what differences there are in the driving dynamics. All right, so we're in the gas-powered Macan first. I'll drive this around. I'll give you a general overview of what it feels like to drive, and then we'll hop into the Macan Electric. I'll drive that around, give you a general sense of what that drives like, and while I'm driving the Macan Electric, I'll compare and contrast the two. All right, so now that that's out of the way, let's take this thing for a quick spin. Ignition is on the left, and it is a twist style. Sadly, the Macan and the Boxster and Cayman, I think, are the only ones that remain with the rotary style shifter. Everything is push button now. It's quite a shame. But anyway, it is what it is. Let's go ahead and see what the base Macan has. One of the nice things about the Macan and the Macan Electric is that they're the right size. It still gives you SUV vibes, but at the same time, it remains somewhat compact or relatively compact compared to an SUV. So now let's go ahead. We're going to do a couple acceleration pulls. And this car does not have any of the performance enhancing options. It does not have sport muffler. It does not have sport chrono. It does not have the air suspension. So this is truly a base Macan with the 4-cylinder engine and some creature comforts that are added in. Nothing performance enhancing. I do have a sport button. Let's go ahead and put that on. Let's put it in manual shift mode. And let's go. Okay. Oh, nice feedback on the exhaust. Okay. Decently quick. It does feel that 0 to 60 in 4-second time frame. PDK is amazing. Brakes, good braking feel as well. Turn. The exhaust bark on the upshift is really nice, and it's kind of adds to that sporty dynamic that you're expecting in a Macan or in a Porsche product. And yeah, it's nice. Let's go ahead and do it from a complete stop. I'm not going to do any launch control. Give it a little bit of brake boost. And it doesn't take it all the way to redline, which is close to 7,000 RPM. Very impressive for a 4-cylinder forced induction motor. But okay, from a speed standpoint, it's good. It's, I would say, good to, I guess, get you rolling for day-to-day driving situations, stop and go, passing. It's got almost 300 pounds-feet of torque, so I don't think you're going to have an issue rolling and passing on the highway, getting on the highway. Now, the other nice thing is that it pulls nicely to redline, and the thing that you're not going to get in the Macan Electric is obviously the exhaust sound. I talked about it earlier, that bark is pretty nice, and the overall acceleration sensation is not going to like push you back into your seat, but I think it's good enough. So now let me switch over and talk about the overall drivability, sportiness, daily drivability of this base Macan. So this thing does a good job of balancing sportiness and daily drivability. As much as it's a relatively light SUV, I think it's about 4,400 pounds, the base Macan. It does a decent job, and again, this is riding on the stock suspension. It does a decent job of being sporty, as much as it can be. Now, I have driven the Macan with the air suspension, and it feels sportier than this, so if you're after that, get the air suspension. But this stock suspension is decent. It does a good job of keeping you tidy when you're giving it a nudge, as much of a nudge as you can give on the street, of course. But I feel like this is tuned more for daily drivability, overall comfort on the street, because The stock suspension does a good job of soaking up the bumps, uneven pavements. Like here, I'm driving in downtown LA streets, which are not the best. And overall ease of use. When you're turning the steering wheel, it's relatively light, and the driving experience is not too cumbersome. Because there is some underlying hints of sportiness in the Macan because it is a Porsche product, but at the same time, it still maintains a lot of the daily driver characteristics that you're looking for in a car like this. And it's really no surprise that so many people decide to buy these and drive them on a daily basis, because this is the first time I'm driving a base Macan with a stock suspension at least, and I could really sense that Porsche has refined this product and made it really, really accessible for somebody to drive it on a daily basis and not get beat up. So yeah, I really like the base Macan, and I think it's a wonderful product. And I'm driving by crypto.com arena now. So go Lakers, go Luka. I'm a big Lakers fan, Kings fan as well. So they've got a Lakers game today. I need to hurry up and film this and get the hell out of downtown LA. But all right, enough harping on. Let's go ahead and switch into the Macan Electric and see what that's all about. All right, now in the Macan Electric, let's go ahead and turn this thing on and go for a spin. Like I said, I'll give you my feelings on this one, and then mix throughout the driving impressions here. I'll kind of touch points with how it compares to the gas-powered Macan. Now, this is the first time I'm driving the base rear-wheel drive Macan. I have driven the Macan 4 or Electric 4 or Macan 4 Electric. I'm not sure what the naming convention is. But yeah, let's just get right into it. What I'm gonna do is, the Macan Electric does have the drive mode, so I'm gonna put it in sport, and also chassis in sport, level, lowered, everything basically in its sportiest setting. And I believe I also have overboost. So let's see if we can do that too. Here we go. Actually, I don't have overboost. Oh yeah, that's right. This does not have sport chrono. So we're 355 horsepower, 335 horsepower. And let's go rolling from 10 miles an hour. Okay, all right. All right, I see a very similar number in terms of the speed I was able to get in this compared to the the gas-powered Macan. The initial thrust that you get with these electric cars is it's difficult to match with a gas-powered car, and even more so when you're doing it from a stop, which I'm going to do here. Complete stop. Launch control activated. Yeah, okay. It gets heightened more and more when you stop, especially with the launch control capability in the electric. And let's just get this out of the way. Okay, so this car is much faster accelerating, feels faster in all driving all driving situations, whether it's from a stop, well, especially from a stop, at a roll. It just really takes off and even has some push you back into your seat capabilities that the base gas Macan kind of is lacking. So yeah, from a speed dynamic, this thing kind of just takes the cake. And not surprising, because even without overboost, it has, what, 60 more horsepower and over 100 pounds-feet of torque advantage over the gas-powered Macan. Even though 0 to 60 is 5.4 to 6 seconds, you may think, oh, half a second, maybe not be a big deal, but let me tell you something else. 0 to 60 in 6 seconds in an EV car and 0 to 60 in 6 seconds in a gas-powered car are two very different experiences, because in an electric car, whatever horsepower you've got, horsepower and torque, actually torque is more important, is all of that is available right when you tip the accelerator pedal, as opposed to in a gas-powered car, it has to build up all that power as you rev it out. So the initial thrust and that accelerating sensation that you get in an EV car naturally just makes it feel faster, even though on paper, let's say in the equation of 0 to 60s are equal, the electric car may feel faster. But in this comparison, base Macan EV or electric, base Macan gas, EV feels hands down faster. Now, let me switch it over into the suspension and the dynamics, the overall driving sensation that you get in this. Okay, so from a comfort standpoint, as a reminder, this does have the air suspension. All Macan electrics have air suspension. This feels about the same, maybe 5 to 10% more comfortable than the gas-powered Macan, and that's saying something. Kudos to the gas-powered Macan, because that's riding on the stock of fixed suspension, and that feels just as comfortable as this in the air suspension. And I'm sure if you add the air suspension in the base Macan, it's probably going to level everything out and they'll probably feel the same. So not much of a difference. I would say very slightly perceptible. I wouldn't bank too much on that. Now, the other area is sportiness. And I believe that the Macan Electric feels sportier in terms of the suspension and some of the driving dynamics. Now, don't call me crazy, because yes, the one thing that is missing is some of the emotion part, because you lose the exhaust and then some of the upshifts, pops and bangs and stuff. But from an overall feeling behind the steering wheel, when you turn the wheel, the driving sensation, the body motions, this does feel sportier than a base Macan. And combine that with the extra speed that this has over the base Macan, I think really the only thing that's left is the exhaust note and some of the vibrations that you get in the gas-powered car. And I don't think that sport sound fixes that, to be honest with you. It's just something that is an inherent disadvantage when you're driving an EV car. You lose some of the emotion because there's no internal combustion engine. Now, one thing that I think is an inherent advantage for the gas-powered, not the gas-powered, the EV Macan, or just all EV cars in general, is that they're extremely quiet because, like I said, there is no engine underneath the hood. There are no vibrations coming in. There's a single speed transmission. There is no transmission shift. And even though I gave the PDK and other automatic transmission kudos, in that the shifts are becoming more unnoticeable, this doesn't even have to shift. So EV cars just inherently have a distinct advantage in terms of daily drivability and comfort and quietness over gas-powered cars. Now, one thing I will say just in terms of this driving experience is it's similar to what I saw in the Genesis GV60, which competes with this car, in that from 0 to 25, there's a lot of driveline noise, meaning the battery noise. I don't know if it's coming through, but there's some noise going from 0 to 25, and then when you go above 25 miles an hour, it just becomes extremely quiet. And that's where you really start to see the quietness, for the lack of a better term, benefit compared to the gas-powered Macan. So in a nutshell, this does feel sportier minus the exhaust note. It does feel more comfortable slightly in terms of ride quality, but overall daily drivability, if you're after something that's much quieter and much smoother in terms of the overall vibrations and the driving dynamics inside the car, this does have an advantage there too. So that's pretty much it for the Macan Electric. Now let's wrap it up with some final thoughts. So that's the Porsche Macan and Macan Electric. So the Macan has been a wildly successful product for Porsche, and up until a year ago when everything was going EV, the Macan was a good candidate and made a lot of sense to go EV. now that some things have changed, I don't think the idea of the Macan Electric being a good car is far-fetched, because I personally think it is. Now, what are some of the reasons why somebody would buy the electric versus the gas-powered version? Well, first things first, if you like the extra power and if you want a rear-wheel drive platform. Second, if you like some of the driving dynamics that I mentioned earlier when driving the electric. Third, if you want the more tech-oriented driving experience all around, especially on the interior. And finally, if you just like the updated design language of Porsche design put into some of the more recent cars. So is all of that worth $10,000 to $12,000? Well, ultimately, that's for you to decide. But for me, I would probably go with a CPO gas-powered Macan GTS for roughly the same price as a base Macan Electric. So that's all I've got. If you've got any questions about either one of these cars, please make sure you leave me a comment down below or send me a message on Instagram @DriveSteady. If you're interested in watching independent reviews of the Macan Electric or a gas-powered Macan, here's some videos for you to watch. Another thank you to Porsche of downtown LA. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, drive steady.